I may be wrong, but I suspect that there's no one here who has a servant. There are people all over the world who have servants, maybe the upstairs, downstairs image, like you remember that old TV show, or people that come in daily and work for them. But in 21st century, middle America, most people don't have servants. So when Jesus says you have to be a servant, we kind of have an image of that, but not a very explicit image. On the other hand, probably everybody here takes advantage of what we call the service sector. The service sector are literally the servers at the restaurants, the servers at Mass. We have the ones who bring the packages to our door. We have those who pick up the trash. There are so many servants in so many ways. The ones who provide for us, making sure our cars are clean, our yards are mowed, the snow is removed, and don't talk about snow yet. But whatever it might be, there are people in the service sector, probably including quite a few people here. By definition, the service sector is about service and not product. So it's not just producing a product, but it's the service involved with it. Jesus talks about becoming a servant if you want to be the greatest. Maybe he's saying put yourself at service to other people. Now, I remember Bishop Ottenweller, after he retired, created a program called Servant Leadership. Now, if you didn't know Bishop Ottenweller, he was a great guy, personal friend. I knew him since I think I was in high school. A large, tall man, the first auxiliary bishop of our diocese. He was a priest from the Toledo diocese. But then he was made bishop of Steubenville, Ohio. But it was after he retired as bishop, probably about the age of 75, he came back to Toledo. Now, he lived till he was probably about 95. But he was working with a few other people, developing a program called Servant Leadership. And I suspect for some people that's almost a contradiction in terms, because you think of leadership as being in charge and running things. You say jump and other people say how high. But he was saying there's a different model of leadership. He was applying it to church leaders. And not just the clergy or pastoral team, but all people of churches, that we need to be servant leaders. By the way, I did some research, and servant leadership is also being used in the secular world. It's not new. It's been around for a while. But the whole concept of servant leadership basically grows out of passages like the one that I just read to you from this Gospel of Mark. And Jesus says, if you want to be greatest, if you want to be the leaders, if you want to be the ones who help establish the church, if you want to be my disciples, then be of service to other people. And what does that mean? That means we put a focus on others. And it's not just like we just want to do whatever everybody else wants of us, but we look at how they can grow, how they can develop, and what we can do to assist them. We really do put the energy. It's almost like the energy flow is there and not just about us. And it's certainly not about power or institutions. Our patron saint, John the 23rd, after he died, one of his contemporaries, a theologian, said, the secret to John the 23rd was he put people ahead of power. Sounds easy, but boy, it's hard, because we love running things. We love being in charge. We love having it our own way. And maybe that's why this second prediction of Jesus' own passion that the whole passage starts off with today, that's why it makes sense with the rest of the passage. Because when Jesus said, I'm going to go to Jerusalem, the Son of Man is going to suffer and die. He will rise from the dead, but he's going to have to really die first. Dying is letting go. Servant leadership is letting go of always getting it our own way. What a different attitude. It's not just a new action, but a different attitude towards things. And then Jesus uses the image of a child. Why? Because children were on the very bottom of the totem pole. They had no prestige. They had no status at all. And he said, but if you can treat the child with dignity and respect, then that will be the servant leader. Just shortly after I was ordained a priest, I was visiting my mother. I have no idea what we were talking about. But suddenly, out of the blue, she looks at me and she says, hey, Herb, don't forget, children are people too. Now, the conversation, I probably just said something like, yes, I know. Then we went on about everything else. I have no idea, I never will know for sure, where that line came from. I suspect that during the week, Mom was concerned that as a newly ordained priest, that I would allow people to put me on the pedestal and I would take myself too seriously. And she was trying to say, hey, treat everybody, including children, like really important people. Jesus did the same thing. He used a child as a reminder that we have to avail ourselves to all others. And it's not just little children, not even teenagers. It's people of all backgrounds, that we somehow consider them to be more the focus of our lives than ourselves. And that is the form of dying. If the disciple has to die like the master, we die to ourselves. And we let go of all that stuff that always wants to creep in. And we say, no, that's not the way to live. We want to be followers of Jesus.